Well, I don't know, like a lot of you guys, but I'm really glad to be here. We've been in Tennessee for the last 6 years, and we finally got out. Sorry, I love Tennessee. It was really, really wonderful. And it's the South, so I'm so glad to be back in Chicago. Oh, gosh. I didn't do that. Most of the time, the stuff I write, these short form personal essays, what I write. You like that? I wrote that. I publish on my website, mrsmetaphor.com.
It's great, by the way.
Thank you so much. Your money is in the mail. This one is called Never Swim Alone, and I wrote this several years ago. It's one of the first things that I learned when I moved to Tennessee. Rule number 1, never swim alone. This is one of my rules. When we moved out to the country, I made a list of rules because I was so worried about our new surroundings and I needed something for the children. The pool on the side of the house caused me a few sleepless nights, and so rule number 1 was never swim alone. I guess I make rules and drill them into my children because of the fear. I could theorize that I do this to help them protect themselves in the wild, but really I think it's because I just don't want to be alone in my fear. If they end up being wiser for it, then so much the better, because if I'm looking for another shoe to drop, I know it will. A watched pot may not boil, but a watched shoe is bound to drop, and then before you know it, we find a couple of copperhead snakes living in a retaining wall next to the house. So rule number 2, never touch a snake. Never touch a snake, never put your hand or foot anywhere where you can't see, never put your face into the hole in the ground, things like this. Every day for what seemed like 6 months, I would say this to them, and then one glorious day while basking in the cool breeze in the back of our house, my 5-year-old son says, "There's a snake living in there." And I said, "What?" But sure enough, there it was. And I've done a little research on snakes in that area, and this was one of the few venomous. Lucky us. Never touch a snake. So we make our way inside. We played inside until the nice man from animal control came out to claim the snake and the snake's surprise friend. He asked my son about it. "What did you do when you saw him?" I told my mom. She said, "Never touch a snake." There you go. Consistency pays off. It's only recently that I've begun to notice the pattern of life becoming consistent again after our unsettling move from the city of Chicago. I find that I look forward to the steady clicking of the clock, the predictable measure of a schedule. I crave the schedule. Every morning is the same, every afternoon ordered, every evening filled with ritual and ordinary time and shoes waiting to drop. A friend of mine lost her daughter Allison to cancer recently. She was 7 years old. I followed Allison's progress for most of her illness through emails and phone calls and occasional visits. Sandy and I had met a few months earlier for dinner. Hearing her talk about the daily regimen of treatments, medications, and tests made my head spin. There was an order to it, but each medication and each treatment was utterly dependent on how her body responded at any given time. They seemed to be at the mercy of this illness. And then she said something amazing. Sandy told me she was coaching her son's soccer team that spring. When I walked her to her car, I saw a mass of soccer balls in the back seat and realized in the midst of her struggle she was coaching soccer. How ordinary it seemed to me. Ordinary time. For Allison's funeral, I sent sunflowers because they reminded me of her. I imagined her sitting across from me at the American Girl place the day we met there, smiling broadly, missing a couple of front teeth and most of her hair. She beamed with joy, sunflower beaming. Some things even my rules will not cover. Never get cancer. Never die young. So many things are out of my control that to be consistent seems an unearthly task. I suppose it is, in fact. I comfort myself late at night with the thought that only God is consistent. Words fail, bodies fail, people fail. The truth is that I simply cannot protect my children or myself. I cannot protect anyone, it seems, from the reality of life on this broken planet. I can be as consistent as possible. I can make rules and give instructions. I can confront my fears and pray for release from them. I can do all these things, but is it enough? Never swim alone. The reason we never swim alone is that we might drown, and no one would know we were missing. No one would know we were in trouble. No one would be there to go for help, to add us to their prayer chain, to bring meals when we're too tired to cook, to offer to babysit for us when we've been at the hospital all day, to give a word of encouragement, to send sunflowers because they remind us of someone we've lost, to tell us we are not alone when we feel utterly helpless and no one there to pull us up when the water begins to cover our head. So, rule number 1, never swim alone.